Hello, I wanted to go through the business plan proposal and the expectations along with the grade sheet. This way you can have an understanding of what my expectations are and how to achieve those. Within each section I will include some important information as you'll see below, and as you already are aware, each day you'll be completing different parts of this proposal so that it will be completed by next week. I started off by including the role so that you understand that BCI, the Barracuda Cove Investors Investment Group, is accepting the business plans, and you can look at the RFP for that information. Also, your audience. It's important, as you know, to know your audience. We talked about that in class last time I saw you. The job descriptions of your audience are included in these Wikipedia links. I included venture capitalist and investment broker. These two positions, by reading about them, will help you understand the various educational background, experience background, and things that they do on a day-to-day basis. So make sure you go through and understand their role so that you can address your presentation and proposal to this particular audience. I also want you to imagine that your audience is not just investors and brokers, but also some lay people, so it's not that everyone in the audience is an expert. Okay, moving forward, each section is included, and I will go through certain details. You'll notice that on this first page it talks about the cover page and the letter of transmittal. I put down no page number. That's because these items, although they are part of the proposal, do not include a page number. This means that you should create these in separate files without page numbers, because when you create your proposal, that the body of your proposal, which needs a page number, you need to put that in its own file, so the page numbers will be put through. So in this cover page, you need to include this information. This letter transmittal, this is what you're going to be doing actually in today's class, and it deals with creating a letter or a cover page in order to give the gist of your business plan. The one thing in the RFP is that there was no contact person specifically, so you'll be using your inside address as the address located on the letterhead of the RFP, and because there's no specific name, you'll be using your salutation as Dear, Madam, or Sir, and that is the polite and proper way to address a person that is not known. You can't assume it's a man or a woman, so you use Dear, Madam, or Sir. Okay. One other thing is that this is a cover letter, so you want to make sure you use the direct approach and give the information and provide goodwill so that they have a good feeling going into reading your proposal. I've included what to include in the different paragraphs so that you have an idea. You do need to make sure that in paragraph 1, that's considered your introduction. Paragraph 2 would be considered your body, and paragraph 3 is considered your conclusion. Because you're going to need to put this on your own letterhead, please make sure your top margin is 0.3 and left and right are 1, and that you use the same font as you would use in the proposal. Okay. Table of contents. The table of contents will start with your executive summary being the first page. This table of contents does not include a page number, and you will need to make sure that you have a leader tab going from the actual heading over to the page number, and I will explain how to do that in Friday's class, but you want it to look as professional as possible. The executive summary is actually going to be completed last, and it's in the most important part of the proposal because this is a snapshot of what is to follow. So consider this executive summary like a sales document, and which will encourage them and interest them and excite them to move forward and read your proposal. Within this executive summary, although it is completed last, and this is something that you'll be working on Monday, you'll need to include a brief narrative format of your statement of need, your product and service description, a brief section about your market analysis, your financial analysis, and then your team, so that you can, again, establish a credibility based on your team's experience market research, etc. And this can be made up information, hypothetical company where you have years of experience and you have backgrounds in different areas. So be creative. The statement of need is another section of the proposal which will need a page number. So again, executive summary was the first page, and the statement of need will be continuing forward. My suggestion is that you keep each of these sections starting off on different pages. That is just my suggestion. It's not a requirement. So if you want each section to flow throughout, that's fine. But if not, again, my suggestion is each section starts a new page. So this statement of need is another important part because it sets the stage. It sets the stage for all other areas, and this is where your team is going to need to provide evidence in the form of statistics, testimony, comparisons or analogies, or some recent news or journal articles. These are things that will go into your your reference section, and you will need to cite these using APA format if you have something that you use directly as evidence. So I want you to think about some of these questions I had listed. This way you can create your statement of need that's effective and allow your audience, these group of investors, to know why your product is important and what it means to your target market. I've included this area of A and B, and I'll explain that when I go through the grade sheet. But A and B is considered above and beyond. Basically, if you just do the minimum of each section, you'll only receive a minimum grade of 85. So in order to get a grade of an A, or in the 90 section, you need to go above and beyond. And in this case, you'd actually find the supporting data and evidence and include that, as I mentioned, as a citation in APA format, or anything that you might be able to include, maybe a figure or a graph or some kind of list like Chapter 6 talks about. And I give you an example of how you cite a document that you have used specifically so that you know how to do that. I will also be including a reference sheet on APA format. Okay, company background. This is also another section that it needs to have a page number, or is page numbered, and this is the background of your company. You need to prove your company's credibility in this section, and this again is hypothetical, so you can be hypothetical in how much experience and competence your company has. You might want to talk about the ethical aspects of your company, how your company has integrity, how they can be trusted, especially with these investors that are going to want to take an active role in your company in terms of ownership, how your company handles situations, the development and maintenance of your company's professional image. So make sure you consider promoting your company's image in this section. You can do this through your mission statement, your vision statement, your company goals and objectives, and some keys to success. So for example, put some key points to how your company is successful and will be a good investment. And you want to do that maybe, again, using some of those strategies or approaches in Chapter 6, which would be using different things like lists, graphs, figures, illustrations, and so on. Product and service description is the next section, and this is where you actually describe your product. You need to include the benefits and features. You might also want to consider, I noticed there's A and B here, developing a prototype. You can do that by creating a model of this, and that would mean if it's something that's out in the store, for example, you're doing some kind of new soft drink, you could take a container or a bottle or whatever it would be, and then put your own label over it, with your own packaging style and so on, so that you can show it to us as a model. Or you could take a photo of something, like if you're planning to do a service and you know what your waiting room or office area might look like, or things of that nature, that would be your above and beyond. But you need to be descriptive in the benefits and features of either your product or service. I also mentioned that if you have a product, you'll take out service here and it would just be called product description. And if you just have a service, then take out product and it should just say service description. You're going to need to prepare a SWOT analysis. This is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you need to do it narratively, and then you need to have the readers refer to the chart or figure. And I am requiring that you have a chart or figure with your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can do this by using some of the Smart Art in Microsoft 7 Word, or Microsoft 7 PowerPoint or Word, where you can create these tables and different charts and illustrations without much work. It does it for you. So think about doing that as well. Or just create a table. Worst case scenario, if you can't do it anything fancy schmancy, just create a table, and you do that by going into Insert, and it goes Insert Table, and then you can insert a table by selecting 2 columns and 2 rows, meaning you'll have a square. And you'll put strengths in one box, weaknesses in another box, opportunities in another box, and threats in the last box. You'll also need to do a competitive comparison. You're going to need to find another product that you will be competing against. And what you want to look at are their features and benefits, or their product, or their company, and compare it against yours. This is another great way to go above and beyond and create a chart or figure to illustrate the differences. And also, if you want to go above and beyond, you can include, instead of just one competitor, additional competitors. So that's a section. And then last but not least, the section of future products and services. I want you to try to forecast potential future products and services, depending on what you're doing, based on the original idea. You want to, that's an error right there, but you want to take a look and see what you might be diversifying in the future, so that your investors know that there is future potential, and it's not just something that you're thinking about now, but you're thinking about trends and fads into the future. So include those. I suggest that you create a subheading under this heading, this product description or service description, with these different areas. A subheading that says benefits and features, a subheading that talks about the SWOT analysis, a subheading that talks about the competitive comparison, and future products and services. This way the layout will be easy to read, and there'll be white space that will allow you to, your reader to understand or skim to each different section. So you can include that. And Chapter 6 talks about how to line up your headings, so take a look at that section in your textbook. The next section is market analysis, and in here there are several things that you can include in a market analysis, and if you were doing a real business plan, there would be several other aspects that you would look at, and you would actually do genuine or authentic research on how your market is and what you're looking at in order to prove that there is a need for this in this section. But I wanted to narrow it down for you to some important aspects so that you don't get overwhelmed, so that things that you're going to include when you analyze your market in this proposal would be the market segmentation, where you're going to describe your target market based on age, gender, price, and interests. A way to be above and beyond in this section is to create a chart or illustration showing the relationship between your products and your target market. I've also gave you a link from Wikipedia on the description of market segmentation if you're not familiar with that concept. The next area is marketing mix. Again, I gave you the description of what a marketing mix is based on the definition in Wikipedia, so that you can, before you create this section, understand the concept of this marketing strategy. And within your marketing mix, you're going to have a section that talks about the product and service, what it takes to produce it, packaging information, any kind of production information. And obviously you will not be doing this, so a lot of this information would be hypothetical based on what you know. Maybe you looked at a competitor, a realistic competitor, and see how they package or produce their product or service. Price, you're going to need to determine your product or service price points and look and indicate what industry costs or price structures are, as well as the profitability in the market. The next area is place, and this is where you plan to locate your product or service. Would it be brick and mortar, the internet, like e-commerce? Would it be in both areas? You have to think of the logistics behind it, how it's going to be distributed, warehoused, etc. So please make sure that you take a close look at that. And it's a requirement that you talk about your web presence, because even though I've given you in this section where it says brick and mortar, internet, or both, you do need to have a web presence, and you need to describe in this area what your web presence is in terms of your web page and what a person going to your web page might be able to expect. In fact, one of the A and B's that you could do above and beyond is creating a mock website, so you can have them refer to the mock website or web page in your appendix. And last but not least would be the promotion. And this is where you describe your promotional strategies related to public relations, advertising, word of mouth, and point of sale. You might want to create charts or illustrations to talk about some of those strategies, but how do you plan to get your product to the market in terms of promotion? And this could be not just now, but into the future. The final section is your financial analysis. And once again, a financial analysis includes a lot of detailed information. In fact, a financial analysis would include a break-even analysis, projected profit and loss, projected cash flow, and so on. But because this is not a requirement of this course, as it would be in another course, I just wanted you to have some certain aspects in here to make it realistic, but yet not as thorough as if you were going to do a business plan on your own. But for this section, you're going to include your startup costs. And this is going to be what your company hypothetically needs to start up. You're going to need to talk about what your company is seeking in terms of an investment, maybe some of the other costs that you'll need to get things going, and also you might want to mention some of the things that you would need in order to maintain some of the items that you might anticipate. Another area of this financial analysis is important assumptions. And in this case, you don't actually have to provide actual financial documents like balance sheets and income statements and so on, but you do need to talk about your projected profitability, solvency, liquidity, and stability. And I've also, those definitions are included in that Wikipedia link above so that you can describe these. And then to go above and beyond, you can create a hypothetical chart, figure, or graph. Alright, so now you're done with the major sections, but you need to conclude your proposal by having a detailed conclusion which summarizes the main points. This is not just one paragraph. This conclusion needs 3 paragraphs: an introduction, a body, and a close or conclusion. You will be repeating yourself in some areas, but you need to be persuasive. This is the last chance for you to try to persuade your investors to take a stake in your company. So use that IDA approach and try to get their attention, incite interest, make them have some kind of desire, and then have them have an action, which would be to accept your proposal or your business plan. After the conclusion, you're going to need to include a reference page, and this is also page numbered and included in your table of contents. And this is going to be an APA format. You need to have a minimum of 4 sources. Now you know that one is going to be your competitor's website, because you're going to go there to find out who your competitor is and what their product does or service does and so on. But you need to have 3 others. So you're going to have to go and research, whether it be in the statement of needs section, the product description section, the market analysis section, and so on, other things that you're actually pulling evidence for this proposal and citing it throughout and including it in your references. Even if you look at a source just to give you ideas and you don't actually cite word for word, you can include that, or you should include that in your reference section. The final area of your proposal is the appendix. And this appendix is going to be related to your corporate communications. And inside this appendix, you'll have a page number on the first page, but you don't have to put a page number on each of the items. You can if you'd like, but it's not a requirement. The appendix includes a promotional piece, a press release, and 2 letters. This appendix is first page. This would just be a cover page. So this promotional piece would not be the first page of your appendix. You would have a blank sheet basically that says appendix, examples of corporate communications, and I'll explain this to you on Friday. and I'll give you an example. And then behind that page, that cover page, will come a promotional piece. And this is something, it could be a literature for your product or service, an advertisement you anticipate, web page announcement. If you create maybe a little YouTube video on your product or service, you can include like a link to that, or a screenshot of what they might anticipate. Okay, so behind that is a press release, and you're going to be creating a press release. You'll pick your own topic. I've given you some ideas. You can use other ideas if you'd like. You can also Google press release and get ideas from what actual companies are indicating to their publics or to their audiences. You'll need a goodwill letter, which you'll be creating today, and a bad news letter as well, creating today. And I've given you different ideas for topics, but make sure your letters have an introduction, a body, and a close, and follow the proper letter format, which I will include again so that you can remember. You can also include any kind of other correspondence or promotional pieces to this appendix. If it's something outside of examples of corporate communications, you can create additional appendices. So you can have this one as Appendix A, and then if you have other information, that would be Appendix B, and other information under a different topic, Appendix C, and so on. So under this, if you do that, Appendix B would have to have a page number. The cover page would have to have a page number, so you would have to go through, make sure you have that on it if you create an additional appendix, and then make sure you include that on your table of contents. Okay, so that's the proposal, and what I want to do now is just show you quickly the grade sheet. This grade sheet, as you'll see, has accounts for the 200 points that this is worth. And I've gone through each section. Now if you look here in fine print, you're going to have to read it closely. This is a rubric criteria. So for the 20-point sections, if you just do the minimum and you do not go above and beyond, the maximum points that you can earn are 17. That's 85%. If you go above and beyond, or have no errors, then and with no errors, you can get between 18 to 20 points. So you have a bit of a difference where you can go above and beyond a lot, or above and beyond, just a little bit over. But either way you look at it, it will increase your total points so that you can have the potential of getting an A or in the 90 range on this project. You'll also see how the 10-point criteria lines up. So if you do the minimum for any of the things that are worth 10 points, you will get the maximum grade of 8, which is 80%. If you go above and beyond, that would be 9 to 10 points. So that would be up to perfect. So I hope that it helps you understand this, and just so that you know why I do this is, as a teacher for a while, I noticed that a lot of students will go out of their way to have an excellent project. And then there are students that don't go out of their way at all, but they get the same grade. And because of my philosophy of making sure that things are fair, I wanted to give the people that go actually above and beyond an opportunity to get an A and not just a mediocre grade, which in this case would be the minimum criteria, which would be an 85. So that's the reason. It's my personal philosophy on how to make it fair for everyone and consider everyone's efforts in the process. I hope this narrative description of the project helps you understand it a little more. Again, you can contact me by email whenever you'd like at sehall@wesca.edu. Thank you. I look forward to receiving your drafts, and have a nice day.